It was a Friday night. I only remember that because my friend invited me and another friend over for the weekend when his parents went away on a trip. We always hung out in my friend's game room, which was on the first floor at the back of the house. It was a small room, but he had a TV, his PlayStation, and a futon where we would all sit and play games or watch movies, as well as a small, almost airplane-sized bathroom. In the game room there was 2 windows, one right behind the futon and one to the right of us if we were sitting down. There was also a door that led to the backyard, which to my knowledge, they never used. We had been playing video games most of the night, and by now it was probably midnight when we decided to watch a movie. My friends went to go make popcorn, and I stayed to use the bathroom. I'm not really one for windows at nighttime. Something about them just gives me the creeps, so I shut the blind. When I was finished, I noticed I couldn't hear my friends anymore, and the kitchen was just around the corner, so normally I could hear them goofing around. I started washing my hands when I heard 2 taps on the window. My heart felt like it sunk, and I bolted out of the bathroom to the kitchen as quick as I could. My friends were still standing there waiting on the popcorn, so I immediately knew it couldn't have been them messing with me. They asked why I looked so shocked, so I told them. They said I was probably just hearing things, or a moth flew into the window, so it calmed me down somewhat. But of course my mind was still thinking, and there was no way I was going to go outside and check, so I left it at that. The popcorn was done, so we finally all sat down to start the movie. It took a second to rent the movie, but my friend clicked play, and the TV screen went black to load. In that split second, we all saw in the reflection of the TV, a face in the window behind us. We all jumped and ran upstairs as quick as we could. It all started to make sense now, the tapping. And we had all seen it, so I knew it wasn't just my imagination. We stayed upstairs so long that my friends ended up falling asleep, but I couldn't sleep even if I tried. I was too freaked out. About 3 a.m. came along, and I was still sitting in silence to listen when I heard another 2 taps. This time louder, and sounded like it came from the front door. I immediately shook my friends awake and we called the police. They came fairly quick and searched the property. When they were done, they showed us footprints at the window, right where we had told them the person was standing. There was no person to be found, so we locked the doors and stayed inside for the night like the officer said. But this forever haunts my friends and I. My parents had gone away for a weekend, and I stayed home to take care of my dogs. It was the last night before they got back, and everything had been normal. My house is out in the country, and I don't have any neighbors for about a mile or so I never see anyone around my house. Probably only a few cars pass a day. In the back of my house is a fenced-in area for the dogs, and behind that is an open field until you get to the wood line. It was sometime towards night, and I let the dogs outside to go to the bathroom. They always scratch on the door to let me know they're done, so I usually just let them out and go back to the living room until they're ready to come in. And being that it was winter, I didn't expect them to be out long. After about 5 minutes, I heard both of them barking at something, so I figured they were probably done and it was time to let them in. I opened the door and called them back, but they wouldn't budge and continued barking, so I let them be. Another 10 minutes went by and they were still barking. It wasn't really odd to me because there's plenty of animals around my house, but it was cold out, so I wanted to get them back inside. Again, I opened the door, but this time they were both growling at something towards the woods. I couldn't see anything from inside, so I threw my coat on and went to check. Coming closer to where the dogs were, I noticed footsteps in the snow, leading from the direction of the woods right up to the fence and back again. I hadn't been out of the house since my parents left, and no one else had been around. That gut feeling that someone is watching you started to hit me. The dogs wouldn't stop staring towards the woods and growling. They weren't going to move, so I grabbed them both by the collars and dragged them in. I rushed to lock all the doors, then stood by the back door once again, peeking through the blinds, but saw nothing, so I went and sat in the living room. My dogs kept pacing from me to the back door, making me worry even more. They started going crazy, jumping at the door and barking. I didn't even want to check, in fear that someone was standing right there, but I walked over to them and peeked through the blinds, only to finally see what they were barking about. Right behind the fence stood a person, staring eye to eye with me. He didn't move an inch, just stood still looking at me. As freaked out as I was, I didn't want to move either. I wanted to know what they were going to do. It suddenly hit me that I had left my phone upstairs, forcing me to debate whether to stay and watch the person, or go and call my dad out of fear. I ran upstairs and grabbed the phone to call him, pacing around my room. No answer. He must have been sleeping already, so I headed back downstairs to peep through the blinds again. He was gone. I frantically sprinted to every window in the house and couldn't see him anywhere. Then I got to the last window, and barely out of the corner I saw that the basement trap door was wide open. No one ever leaves that door open. My stomach tensed up. He had to be in the basement. My dog started going crazy, now standing by the door that led to the basement. I was so frantic I didn't know whether to hide and see if he would leave, or call the police. I started dialing 911. I dropped my phone. I grabbed the kitchen table and started pulling it to the door to make sure he couldn't get in, and ran back upstairs to hide. My phone was now downstairs, and I wasn't going back to get it. I waited and listened, although it was hard to hear any doors shaking over the dogs barking. The dogs calmed down after a while, and I heard nothing but silence. So I waited and waited all night until morning, and finally I heard a car pull in. My parents were finally home. I ran to my dad and told him what happened, so he immediately went to check the basement, but the hatch was closed and nothing was down there. We never saw the person again, and luckily we moved about a year later, but I will never forget my real-life horror story.